time, but I really liked this story for a lot of reasons. I mean, it felt like something I would write, and I liked the fact that our hero Moon is 11 years old, and yet he's not a kid that just stays home and waits for mom to take him to soccer practice. I mean, he's out there, in real tough situations, and he's a dynamic kid who knows things, this constable's after him, and yet he's smarter than him and can outsmart him, and yet it still felt very real and credible and had a lot of heart. So I thought it was a really good story. So and something I thought I could bring something to. In fact, I hesitated, and a friend of mine in Austin, it's a great community, I called a friend of mine, Rick Linklater. And I said, I've never done that and write. And he said, if you think you can do a great job, if you think you really bring something to it, then you should do it. And so, thanks to his advice, I went ahead and said yes, and really had a great time. A lot of things came together for us. Fortunately, we got John Goodman and Glenn Howard, and Jimmy Bennett was a kid I had my eye on for some time. It's just a real comer. So we were real lucky with our casting, and a lot of ththings fell into place for us.
Yeah, because Jimmy was so important to cast.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, I told my producer I need three things, that we've got to have, because this was not a big budget movie. We had a little over 30 days to shoot it, and this kid he's in every scene of the movie, and young people can't work 8 hours a day shooting a film. There's child labor laws and things, so we had to really use him very efficiently. And I said we need a great kid who could just come out of the school trailer, hit his marks, do his lines, and then go back to school. He needs to be a real trooper that doesn't take. I can't beat a performance out of him and take 10 takes. So I said I need a really good double for the kid. There's a lot of scenes. I bet 30% of the times you're seeing Moon. You think you're seeing Moon, but you're seeing a double that we had. A really nice young woman, interestingly named Emily Probst, who was about Jimmy's height, and in fact she had doubled for Jimmy before. So from behind it looks just like Jimmy. So anytime you see him from behind or in a long shot, it's probably Emily. So that was a real help. And I said we really need a fast EP, and so I had a friend of mine, Jimmy, who's a guy named Jimmy Lindsay, who shoots most of Robert Rodriguez's movies. So it was a lot of confusion. My DP and my lead actor both named Jimmy, on the set. But Jimmy Lindsay just did a great job. It really looks beautiful. We had a short time, but I'm glad you got to see it on the big screen because it's a big looking movie, I think. So a lot of things fell into place for us, fortunately.
The Jimmy, if you guys didn't recognize him, was young James.
Yeah, young James Kirk on Star Trek. Yeah, he's got a huge IMDb. He does a lot of movies. He was in Truckers last year. He's really works all the time. He's a great kid. He's a real comer as an actor.
Yeah. He has more credits than most.
Most adults, yeah.
Most adults,
if you look at him up on IMDb, you'll see 50, 60 credits. It's amazing.
Anybody have any questions? No?
Oh, I should also introduce my composers here, Ludwig Drizal, he did a wonderful job for us. And also, one of our young actresses, Elizabeth Jackson, played Rachel in the film, is back there. She did a great job. So we were very lucky.
Question right here.
You mentioned that you've done some writing work, and there were some things you had to fix in that.
Yeah, some of them were logistical things. The script had sort of an interesting evolution. First, my producer hired what he called a hack drunk guy from L.A. to write the first draft, and he meant that in a loving way because it's some old buddy of his. And then he brought in the guy who wrote the novel to do a rewrite of the script, and so the script sort of had some issues that a first-time writer would have. I mean, the novelist tried to cram a lot of it in. So the script, first off, 130 pages long, which was way too long for a movie where we only had 30 days to shoot, and a big problem. And so there were a number of things like that he just didn't know what to do. Like, for instance, the character of Wellington, I thought was our best shot at getting a lead actor, and of course we got John Goodman for it because he's the hero. He has this great dramatic court scene, and he really comes to the kid's aid. But in that script, he comes in on page 90, and no actor is going to do a movie where he's not in the first 3/4 of the script. So so we added in the scene earlier where Jimmy escapes from him at his place. A lot of it was almost like, to get an actor, we need to do this, and things that I know with my experience. Also, there are a number of he tried to keep so much of the book that he had all these little quarter or half-page scenes that were just really tough to do. In 33 days. And there's just the transitions between these little scenes is tough. It'd be like, okay, we have 2 kids in the shelter, cut to 2 kids in the shelter, cut to 2 kids in the shelter, and how do you get in and out of those scenes, that sort of thing. So I did a lot of combining of scenes, that sort of thing. Just But overall, we kept it really close to the spirit of the book, and the ending, we finessed a little bit. We were back and forth on different things that happened on the end, but this last scene here, I think, kind of says, that it's not going to be easy, but, there's a little hope now in his life, so. Anyway.
Clint kind of touched on this at the beginning in the intro, but he was mentioning that he was kind of the comic relief a little bit.
Yeah.
But the character of the book, completely different, right?
Yeah, the character of the book
different.
the book is darker in some ways. The book is, interestingly, it's in first person from Moon's point of view, as if Moon's memoir, so to speak. And the character, the constable's a real bad guy. I mean, he's taking Moon to prison, to the jail, and he stops off to beat people up. He's just a real sort of mean guy in the book, and it's hard to see that sort of thing on screen in a family film, and we wanted to have some fun with it. A lot of what I thought we should do and did, I hope, is bring some humor into the movie. Not the boy, because it's a real boy's adventure. It's sort of a wish fulfillment. Boys out in the woods all by themselves. We don't need any adults around, kind of stuff. And but there were a few actors we really wrestled with. That was probably the hardest part to cast, was Constable Sanders, because he has to be, we want to have some fun with him, and yet he has to be a real threat. He has to be really credibly threatening and kind of creepy and all of that at the same time. And Clint managed to do all those things at the same time, which we were very lucky. There's few guys who could have been. We didn't want the Home Alone villain, the sort of the comic book, keeps falling down all the time guy. So we managed to have our fun with Clint, yet also he was threatening. So it was a tough, very thin line that he had to ride. And I think he did a great job.
He could have pulled that off, though.
Yeah.
He probably could have done that Home Alone villain.
Oh, he really could have. Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, I've been talking all day. I was at a panel.
What happens with Hal at the end? I thought that part was a little confusing.
Yeah, he goes back to there was a little bit more of it in the book, but his father is sort of considered an unfit father, so he ends up at a boys' school. And there's actually a sequel to this novel that's been written that's all about Hal. He gets into dirt track racing or something, I think. So it seemed very important to the writer that he goes to Hellenweiler, because that was the next book, that he had written. So anyway, so that's what happens.
Just in case that sequel gets made.
Yeah, just or at least certainly the book was important to him. So.
What other movies have you directed?
Let's see. The movie I directed before this is called Second Hand Lions, with Robert Duvall and Michael Caine. And then I did a movie called Dancer, Texas, Population 81. I also did this little budget thing called Two Bobs that played here last year. And then I was the screenwriter on The Iron Giant. That's mostly the movies I'm known for, is those.
Back up there.
I know Clint had mentioned the difficulty with distribution on this, but it seems like distributors are seeking family films, and this is such a positive message family film, and it's nice to see a boy that's not in front of a video game.
You bet, yeah.
And it's kind of a side that a lot of kids don't really get to see, but it had a great message.
Well, I'm with you. That's why I wanted to see this. And studios seem interested, but it's funny, nowadays what they call family films are sort of the expensive movies with an adult guy like Jim Carrey in the lead, or Tim Allen, or, you know what I mean? They sort of know how to sell those movies. This movie doesn't have any kind of big stars, doesn't have any big explosions in it, so that's always it's sort of an indie, character-driven film, and yet it's a family film. Do you know what I mean? And so a bunch of studios love the movie, but then they kind of go, we're not sure how to sell this movie. You know what I mean? And so the thing is, and it's not an expensive movie, so they wouldn't want to put a lot of money into releasing it like they would a big, epic, family film. So we've talked to a number of distributors, and we just really need to find the right people that want to handle it. I mean, a number of the big studios want to do the home video, like Fox and people like that. But we really want to get a theatrical release, because I really shot it to be, it's widescreen. We shot it in Panavision, scope, so anamorphic. So it's really a big screen movie. I really want to get it out there theatrically. So this print's going to Cannes right after this festival, and we're looking at the foreign people. There's a lot of interest over there, but the domestic distribution is still sort of in play. But I feel like my producer Lee Faulkner's a pretty smart guy, so I think he knows what he's doing. So it'll get out there.